And we are live. Hello and welcome to Forever Red Devils Monday. And what an evening it was last night. Manchester United getting the win over Fulham. Fortuitously so, I suppose. And at the end of the day, not a fantastic performance, if you're going to be brutally honest. And I think last night, you stage of watching United where you kind of you start to despair to a certain degree of just how poor we were. And we're going to look at a Rasmus Højlund stat, which is going to really put into perspective just how bad United have been recently in front of goal. And the other thing I think I want to talk about obviously is the press conference afterwards and what Ruben Amorim has had to say about Marcus Rashford and where that leaves him as a player, where we are as a club, for example. And I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see what the reaction is. And I'm interested to see what the fans are, because some fans are also going fully in on what Ruben Amorim said, kind of agreeing with it in the likes of that. Some fans not quite as happy about it. So I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say and what sort of your opinion is on the Marcus Rashford situation, for example, and what he had to say. But let's start with looking at a little bit of last night. So I mean, last night, yeah, not an ideal game, if you're going to be brutally honest. A deflected goal being the difference from Lisandro Martinez. And at the end of the day, we continue to struggle up front, to be honest, and we just don't look particularly threatening. Is the worry? We're just not sitting there as a side ever going out dominating teams at the moment and getting results. I think the weird thing is at the moment, I think we've been playing actually against better teams than we do against teams maybe we expected to beat, and it's almost like at times you can kind of get ourselves up, you can kind of G ourselves up, we can really talk into a good pre-match situation, and then we can really sort of get behind and go for it. And then as soon as it's a game where it's kind of maybe not as important, for example, maybe it's not as big as a team, we kind of just don't seem to be able to get up for it. And I felt like last night was a very good demonstration of this, where were it not for a deflected goal outside the box, we would have probably come away with the draw. I did think last night we looked a lot better defensively. I thought once again Harry Maguire was very good last night. I thought that Lisandro Martinez obviously with that goal, but I thought defensively looked a lot better last night. I don't think Fulham looked that attacking, to be perfectly honest. And you look at the attacking momentum, for example, and it was quite reasonably one-sided. And if you look at the opportunities, for example, Fulham had 9 shots, but I wouldn't say massive chances at times. But we were absolutely awful in front of goal. And that has to change. It really has to change. 3 shots on target for Fulham, 1 shot on target for United. Andre Onana had to produce 1 save, basically. I think it was 1, maybe 2 saves. So he wasn't particularly busy, but was so bad in front of goal. And it just doesn't seem to be changing, to be perfectly honest. And I want to have a look at this Rasmus Højlund stat. And it is absolutely horrendous. And I'll put it up on the screen over here and we'll have a look at it, because it just lays bare just how poor United have been recently, and it's very worrying if it doesn't start to change. And this is the stat itself. So here we go. Rasmus Højlund has had 12 shots in the Premier League this season, while Bruno Fernandes has had 62. Højlund has also failed to shoot for the 7th time in 13 Premier League starts. That means that more than every half start he gets, he's failing to produce a shot. That is as many as Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Nathan Collins, Jake Owen, Constantine Mavropanos, all defenders. And he has touched the ball in the opposition box 33 times in the league this season, compared to 113 for Ahmad. That is so worrying. I mean, that is disaster, really. And this is a player who scored 15 goals last season. And, the question we need to start asking ourselves is, what is going on? Are we talking, is this a player issue, for example? Is this a system issue? Is it a combination? More to the point, how do we fix this? This is not sustainable. You can't just suddenly just give up on Højlund and say, right, well, he's useless, the next person in. Because we spent big money on him. And because I personally don't even think that he is the be-on or end-all of this issue. I think at the moment we've got a system which just is not creating enough opportunities up front. It's not bringing up strikers into play. We are often very narrow, and then when we go out wide, for example, we've often got very few people in the box. So I don't know if this is one of those cases where it's just United are really struggling within the system, and it's just because you look at, for example, Gyökeres from Sporting. Obviously, he scored so many goals for Sporting this season, especially under Ruben Amorim in that system. So it's not so simple to just say, well, the system's the reason, because you've got somebody like him who is scoring lots of goals in the Amorim system. Obviously, the different league, different situation, and the likes. But this has to change. I mean, to have 12 shots compared to Bruno Fernandes' 62. I mean, I'd love to know where Bruno Fernandes' 62 is. Obviously, for example, he's a bit further back and often taking those shots outside the box and the likes of that. So then the question is, why are we not getting a ball to our strikers in the box, for example? And is it a Rasmus Højlund issue? Is it, for example, if you had a Harry Kane, would it be different? Probably would be, because he probably drops in a bit further behind. And Ruben Amorim, to be fair, was sort of talking about the fact that there's a disconnect with Højlund, and that's kind of one of the reasons that things were struggling. And it's really, really worrying. But he basically last night sort of implied that it was kind of his fault. So if you look at some of the comments from last night, Ruben Amorim over here said, over here, he said he works really hard, and you can sometimes see without training there is a disconnection. We can explain, but without training, sometimes it goes away when it should be near. Sometimes it goes near where he should make a run. So again, basically admitting that kind of the issue is, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. The issue is with the player himself as opposed to the system. And he's very defensive about the system as Ruben Amorim. He's very defensive about his philosophy, about the way he needs to do it. And you've got to be, at the moment, he's coming out swinging, isn't he? Ruben Amorim is not going to take the criticism lying down. He's coming out swinging, but I worry about the way he's handling it and how he might sort of potentially ostracize it with him within the squad, because of kind of the way that he's now very often not basically almost sort of not passing the blame on, but he doesn't take a lot of the criticism. Initially, for example, he was very, and that's I think the big thing. We've seen a change within Ruben Amorim, because initially he was very quick to say that it's not the player's fault, for example, that he needs to take responsibility as the coach, and as a coaching staff, for example, they'll get that, they'll sort it out, and they'll make sure they'll work it out and the likes of that. And that was kind of the rhetoric, that he would often take responsibility and he'd kind of very much protect the players. And he always said he was going to protect the players. I do think there's been a switch in that last month where he's not protecting the players maybe as much as he was, and he's far more open to explaining that maybe the players are making a mistake, and that he's still very confident in the system, that he doesn't believe that's the issue. And it's a difficult balance to get right, because you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the system that you want to play and how you're sort of setting up and the likes of that. But you also need to have the players on board in order to find success. So this is the big quote that obviously is breaking the internet at the moment. And he said as follows. He said, if things don't change, I will not change. I'll put the goalkeeper coach for Tal before I put a player who does not give the maximum every day. I will not change in that department. So that is an incredible indictment on how little he rates Marcus Rashford right now, and how little he thinks of him. Basically implying that he's going to put a 63-year-old man onto the bench before he's going to put Rashford, because he does not give the all in training. So it's a really, really bad look. And honestly, I don't think it's just a bad look on Rashford. It's a bad look on everything. It's a bad look on the club. I think it's a bad look on Rashford. I don't think it's a great look on Amorim, to be perfectly honest. I think this is a dangerous quote. I think this is dangerous territory. When you start talking and making statements like that on the back of a game, in the heat of the moment, you completely ostracize a player, for example. There's now no way back for Rashford into the squad under Ruben Amorim. And we've got a week before the transfer window closes. If he does not leave, we're now going to have a player sitting on 275, 300,000 pound wages who's not going to be playing. He's going to drop into the reserves, at this rate, and play with the under 21s. And when we've just looked at that stat of Rasmus Højlund, of how poor Rasmus Højlund has been up front, how we are so unthreatening in front of goal, and you've got something like Marcus Rashford, he's not played particularly well this year. But you sit there thinking, well, games like last night, you think we can't be much worse. He probably adds value to the team, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe, he would have played and it would have been no different. But, I just feel we don't really have the luxury right now of being able to just be so dismissive of somebody like a Marcus Rashford when we are so poor. When Rasmus Højlund has got 12 shots in the Premier League this season. I've no idea how many Rashford has, for example. But the annoying thing is that when Ruben Amorim came in recently and Rashford played, he had the brace and he actually, I think, had 4 goal contributions in like 2 3 games. And you're sitting there going, well, here we go. Maybe you're about to see a change in him. Now, what's quite weird about the situation is there have been issues with Rashford before, and there was talk about issues with him and Ten Hag, for example, like when he went out after his birthday. I personally never had very much of an issue with that. But no manager has ever implied that he just is lazy, doesn't work, and is not basically a good professional as much or as pointedly as Ruben Amorim. So the question is, what has changed? Has Rashford suddenly just, for whatever reason, become an absolute basket case? Is he sitting there and not putting in any effort in training, not pitching up when he needs to, missing team meetings or something? Has he just become like ungovernable, for example, where you look at a player and it's just not worth investing in? Or has there been a fallout? And I think there has to have been. I think there's been a fallout. I think that when Ruben Amorim came in, for example, I think there must have been a fallout between him and Rashford, an argument or a disagreement or something along the lines. And now, as a result, he just will not, he'll never play him. And I think it's sad for a player who's come through the United Academy and, is not completely dropped out of the squad. And, are we going to be sitting in a situation in a year's time where Rashford's going to have left, maybe Amorim might get the sack, but, if United continue to go really, really badly. And you look at this as just an absolute fiasco. And I'm just so bored of being the laughing stock of the Premier League because situations like this make us the laughing stock of the Premier League. Especially when so many clubs, for example, and fans are saying that, they'll take a Rashford at their club. And they probably would, because Rashford at his best does offer you a lot. He does. Very, very interesting to see. Obviously, if he gets his loan now in January, he's going to have everything to prove. And I really hope we don't see a Jadon Sancho situation where Amorim spent months telling us all how poor Rashford is and how bad his attitude is, and then he goes to Barcelona and scores 12 goals in the second half of the season. Under Hansi Flick, he just transforms into a new player. Or if he goes to a Dortmund and becomes a different player, if he goes to the Serie A and becomes a different player, because then once again that looks like really, really poor, where United just can't manage players and can't handle players and can't get players playing at the highest level. So I think we're in for a really interesting 6 months, especially if he does go, because I think it'll really lay bare what's actually going in the club. Because we've seen Jadon Sancho last season have a fallout with Ten Hag, be told that he's not going to be playing at United, for example. Then he goes to Dortmund, has a fantastic season, gets to the Champions League final. Then he goes to Chelsea this season, and he's having a very good season at Chelsea. And the more you look at, the more you suddenly think, well, we've now actually stuffed up on a player who could have added a lot of value. Are we going to see the same thing now with Marcus Rashford? I really hope we're not, but we could very well do. And who's the replacement going to be? Because I worry about us going and signing all these players for a system-based players. And obviously we've got to back Ruben Amorim, and we've got to make sure that he's got the right players that's going to suit his system, and that's going to he can get the best out of. But I don't want to be sitting here 6 months' time with all these different players who are signed for a specific system. The performances still don't get any better, and the board decides to sack Amorim, and now we're stuck with a squad where a new man's going to come in and sit there saying, I don't actually want these players because they're not going to suit my system. And we're continuously rebuilding a squad and just not getting any success. So another further quote on it was this, where he said, Rashford asked, the reason is the training, the way I see what football should do in training, in life. It's every day, every detail. Even if we miss something up front against Fulham, I prefer like this. At what point does the performances become so bad where you sit there and you actually have to almost sort of shelve your ego, shelve your performance, and sit there and say, no, actually, guys, we are so crap in front of goal. We need to bring someone like Rashford back in. Do you lose important games for your pride? So, and exactly, and at what point? Rashford's point is not scoring any goals. He's not scoring any goals. We are so impotent up front. Against Rangers, we relied on an own goal and then a 92nd minute winner. Once again, didn't score. I mean, so we basically had own goal on Thursday and then a 92nd minute, and then last night we had deflection. So we're not scoring goals for fun. I mean, this weekend, Bournemouth beat Nottingham Forest 5-0. That is a team, for example, that knows how to score goals. There were actually lots of big results this weekend. I mean, I think there were only about 2 or 3 teams that didn't score this weekend. You go and look at the matches over here over the weekend, and Everton beating Brighton 1-0. This is the Brighton that beat us, by the way. Everton being relegation candidates, great. Liverpool beating for Ipswich 4-1. 5 goals there. 4 goals between Southampton and Newcastle. Wolves, Arsenal, a bit of a shit show game. 2 red cards, 1-0 there. But Bournemouth beating Nottingham 5-0. City beating Chelsea 3-1. Tottenham going down to Leicester 2-1. Brentford beating Crystal Palace 2-1. 1-1 against Villa between Villa and West Ham. 1-0 against United and as a deflected goal. So you look at a team like Liverpool, 4 goals against Ipswich, easier to like. Newcastle 3 goals, City 3 goals. As I said, Bournemouth 5 goals. So you've got all these teams around the Premier League that are scoring goals, and we are just not. In fact, you go look at how many goals we scored in the last how many games. I mean, this year, for example, let's just look at this year. This year, we have scored. There we go. Look at all the matches. So, come on, man. Just go to my. There we go. So, if we look at 2025, for example, 2 against Liverpool, 1 against Arsenal, 3 against Southampton. I mean, that was bizarre. But 1 against Brighton, 2 against Rangers, 1 against Fulham. In December, we scored 2 goals, which were all... Sorry, we scored 5 goals. 3 of which were... so since that City game in the league, we scored 1... no goals in December after the league. So we go back in the last 6-7 weeks, and we're probably averaging maybe just over 1 goal per game. Because we have scored 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 10. That's 10 in 5, 10 in 6 games. So just below 2, but then none for that. So that's 10 and 7, 10 and 8, 10 and 9. Yeah, we go look at 22nd of December, the last month basically, and we're averaging about a goal a game. And you're not going to win leagues like that. You're not going to climb the table like that. So our struggles up front are diabolical. And things got to change. And something's not going to change our goals, but hopefully we'll change our team. Is that the only good news this week is that we should be getting an incoming. I think that we are going to see an agreement for Patrick Dorgu this weekend, or by this weekend. Apparently, we are going to be submitting a new approach early this week. We are going to be submitting add-ons which are much closer to the 40 million euro price tag. I personally think we're probably going to get to the end of the window and pay the 40 million price tag, because that's kind of where United are. Apparently, he's already agreed teams with us, but Napoli are keen on him in the summer, so need to get this done. Because also, I'm so bored of... I mean, this is going to be the only flipping sign we're going to make. I mean, it doesn't matter that we're not scoring any goals. The only sign we're going to be able to make is bringing in a 20-year-old left-back who can play a bit of right wing on 40 million euros. Does that solve our team? No. Does it help our team? Sure. But does it solve our major problems? No, it doesn't. And are we really a much bigger step to where we were a month ago? Probably not. What's happened with Garnacho? He was probably one of United's brightest attackers actually yesterday, and he's looking to leave. So, I mean, Garnacho leaves, for example. Where does that leave us? Not saying that, he's the be-all and end-all, but can we really afford to just let Garnacho go now? Where right now we're not even anywhere close to bringing in an attacking player. We're not going to lose somebody who's actually created a couple of assists recently. And we're going to continue to be, I think, really, really toothless up front. So as much as we got a win yesterday, we got a win last week, and, maybe it was the last 7 days have been all right for United. Just don't feel like we're anywhere near being good enough and taking a step forward. I feel like we're still stuck in such a big rut, and I'm still waiting for that one performance. And that performance is going to have to come probably this coming week, next weekend, because you got FCSB on Thursday. You've got to be beating them, and then you've got Palace on Sunday. Next Friday, you got Leicester City. So in the next 4 games, we've got to see a big performance. We've got to see us go through top 8 in Europa. Have to see us go through the next round in the FA Cup. It's not going to be easy, by the way, that FA Cup tie against Leicester. And then we've got Spurs a week later. And somewhere there, we've got to see us take a step forward, because Ruben Amorim's now been in charge for over 2 months based by the time we get there. And I'm not seeing steps forward, to be honest. And I'm not saying I need to be in his second, but I just wonder when will we start to see any sort of progress? Because at the moment, we're just not. We're not progressing forward. I do feel we're coming sometimes going backwards in terms of somehow some players have just been absolutely awful. Some players obviously been reasonably better, but you know, and I get we have to change to a new system, but we're just not seeing any progression. And until I start seeing progression, I'm going to still, unfortunately, be very on the fence with whether we made the right decision by bringing him in. I liked him as a person, but unfortunately, I'm already seeing cracks showing with regards to the way he's talking to the media, with the way he's talking about players, and the system, for example, doesn't excite us. It's not producing results when we, you know, so it's the jury's very, very much still out on him. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. And yeah, obviously a big week ahead. But we'll potentially might obviously be doing a live stream for the watch along on Thursday. So make sure you come and join us if we